Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable, the first supervisor, Sersamtidar SPD MED Tesol EDD, and the second supervisor, DRA Syarifah Faradiba MHum. The Honorable, the first examiner, Sir Munir SPD MED Tesol, and the second examiner, Mardiana Nasta SS SPD MHum. First of all, thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who always given hope, blessing, and salvation for all of us. And my salawat and salam for our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who always give a goodness in the world. In this occasion, I'm Widya Sari Ismail, and I will present my proposal entitled Students' Perception on YouTube-based English Learning. So there are 3 chapters in this research. The first one is chapter 1, covers background, problem statement, objective of the research, limitation of the research, significance of the research. And chapter 2 covers previous studies, pertinent ideas, and conceptual and chapter 3 covers research design, place of the research, subject of the research, research instrument, and procedure of collecting data, and the last is technique of data analysis. In a background, so it is undeniable that the growth of technology is very rapidly nowadays. So one of the fastest and the most useful technological development today is internet. Because of the confidence offered, the technology is widely used in the learning process, and it is hoped that the teaching and learning process will be no longer be limited by a space and time. On the other hand, the use of English system must dealing with technological development. Various studies shows that the generation nowadays known as the internet generation actually has a high learning orientation and enthusiasm, but the way they obtain information is quite different. This generation way of learning tend to be independent and autonomous. However, they are persistent seeker of information and consequently determine the choice of learning models that suit them. The current, for example, the current phenomenon requires teachers to be more creative in carrying out the teaching and learning process to meet their demands. Now, educators no longer just use a conventional method in a classroom learning. The educational paradigm, the shift of educational paradigm, especially in a classroom learning, should be in line with technological development. One of them is by utilizing audiovisual technology such as YouTube. And YouTube is considered as a source of online material that can play a key role in the teaching and learning file. YouTube is one of the most popular video sharing service on the internet nowadays. Currently, YouTube users are spread all over the world from various ages, from children to adults. So moreover, nowadays many users upload the videos about lesson, and many educators also provide videos about learning. So YouTube can also help students to meet their need for using language in real world and interest exploring the world. And according to the Sakir, Dola, and Ahmad 2020, in a study called Students' Perception of YouTube used in EFL classroom, found that the participant attitude toward the YouTube adoption were positive, and there were no negative students' response to YouTube use in EFL classroom. So based on the studies above, this study aims to investigate the students' perception on YouTube-based English learning, especially for their autonomous learning. So this research shown the students in 4th, and sixth semester at English Education Study Program, State University of Makassar, in using YouTube as a media of learning English State University of Makassar in using YouTube as a media of learning English language for their autonomous learning. So as a digital generation, students in State University of Makassar are already familiar with the use of technology for educational process such as YouTube. Moreover, they state that among the lecturer and the students, the use of YouTube is very popular, and there are several courses that use YouTube as a learning platform. So specifically, this study aims to explore the students' perception on YouTube-based English learning as a medium regard for the students to learn English outside the classroom. Outside of the classroom. The next one is problem statement. So based on the background of the study, the researcher would like to find the answer of the question, what are the students' perception on the YouTube-based English learning? The next one is the objective of the research. Based on the research based on the research question, the purpose of this research is to describe students' perception on YouTube-based English learning. And the limitation of this research, this study involves collected information about the students' perception on YouTube-based English learning. The respondent is the students at English Education Study Program in second, fourth, and sixth semester, 2019 and 2021 generation of State University of Makassar. With these aims, limitation of this study focus to describe students' perception on YouTube-based English learning, especially for their autonomous learning. So the next one is significance of the research. The result of this research will be include a theory and practical contribution. The first one is theoretically. It is hoped that the findings of this research can share a good inputs to English teachers about the students' perception toward the use of YouTube videos in learning activity. And the second one, practically, it is hoped that the information from this research can help the teacher improve their teaching learning process by using YouTube. Okay, so the next one is chapter 2, literature review. So the next chapter is literature review. This chapter covers previous studies, pertinent ideas, and the conceptual framework. So we start with the previous studies. The first research conducted by Bethany et al. In 2016 in the research entitled YouTube in the Classroom, helpful tips and students' perception. They focus on how best to apply YouTube in learning and students' perception of its use. This research the result of this research is students have a positive perception toward the use of YouTube. However, students perceive certain video as more helpful than others. And the second research is carried out by Richard, Sembel, and Hasibuan 2019 throughout this study entitled Utilizing YouTube to Develop Nursing Students' Autonomous Learning and Listening Comprehension, an experimental study. The researcher intend to see if the YouTube may help nursing students improve their listening comprehension skill at the Tangerine Nursing School. And this study also conclude that after a series of 8 meetings of learning, using YouTube was effective in improving nursing students' listening comprehension skill. And the next one is a study by Trang in 2020. In his research, using YouTube videos to enhance learner autonomy in writing, a qualitative research design. This research explains why students need to use YouTube both inside and outside of their classroom writing activities. This paper, as a result of this study, it is very important to use YouTube videos to find useful information for college students to perform a real writing activity. This helps both teacher and language learners to have a strong educational channel that encourage students in language learning in general, especially in writing. The paper also point out that the benefit of the YouTube videos as a powerful learning tools for the language development in all language acquisition skills. And the next one is a study by Gracela and Noor in 2020. Conduct a research entitled Students' Perception of English Learning Through YouTube Application. The purpose of this research is to find out how students perceive learning English through the YouTube application. So the result of this study have many benefits for all the students to improve their English skill. And then YouTube also very easily to accessible and almost every student's device. And the students think that it's pretty help and motivating them to learn English. And the last one, the study by Schiff and Shah in 2019, pupil perception of the use of YouTube and autonomous learning. The goal of this study was to find out how students felt about using YouTube for independent learning. And then the results were implicitly telling that the pupils actually enjoy using YouTube. The pupils felt that the application has created a comfortable environment for them to learn at their own pace. Okay, so the next one is pertinent ideas. There are some pertinent ideas in this research. The first one is perception. According to Sunario in 2004, describe perception as the final process of observation that begins with a sensing process, specifically the procedure of receiving a stimulus through the sense. Then the individual is paying attention, then it's handed directly to the brain, and the person aware of something called perception. So and the next one is the process of perception. Perception doesn't occur immediately, but perception comes through a complex process within a person. According to Toha in 2003, the perceptual process consists of several stages. Perceptual process begin with a person encounters a stimulus in the environment, and it is then captured by the sense and sent to the brain, stimulate and interpret according to individual motivation and personality. And the information is then felt by the individual in the form of feedback on the stimulus. Similarly, Walgito in 2010 said that perception process is employed through some step. Stimulus from the object increase the sensory tools in our body. The stimulus derives from inside and outside of the individual. Then the stimulus is transferred to the main nervous system located in our brain. Then the brain then process the stimulus so that the individual is aware of the object received by sensory tool. He also emphasizes that the need of caution when observing an object when a person perceives it. This is because a person can receive more than a stimulus from the environment, and not all of the stimuli receive a response from a person. The stimuli are perceived according to the personality itself. So based on the rationale, it may be finished that belief is a complicated system consists of giving interest and the object amazing stimulus via our sense and recording the stimulus into a view, which means that the cause response have an effect of our behavior. And the next one is factor affecting perception. There are a few elements taken into consideration, crucial system of perceiving human things. There are three elements affect belief. The primary is robust stimulus. It has to make a person conscious, a good way to without delay understand it. Clear stimulus can also additionally affect belief. And the second one is the body structure and psychology. Psychology pertains to sensory equipment or brain, even as a psychology element consists of experiences, motivation, and wondering ability. Last is the environment. Situation that trigger a stimulus affects perception, especially when the subject is a person. In this case, different people have a different social background and generate different perception. And the next one, the second is media in language learning. Media refer to communication. Media has become a part of our daily life. Media plays a dominant role in a learning process. And generally, there are 4 features of media which are utilizing in a learning process. The first one, media can supply the message virtually and make it smooth to give an explanation for the material. And then the second one, media can solve the problem in the room, time and space. And the third one, media suitable media can solve the passive mindset college student that and inspire them to learn. And the last one, the media are capable supply of few stimulus, equalize experience, and provide with the equal perception among the trainer and college students with a distinctive characteristic environment and experience. So there are some types of media such as printing media, visual media, audio media, and then audiovisual media. And the third one is YouTube. YouTube is a video sharing service that allows user to view videos posted by other user and upload their own video. YouTube is an entertainment format that tells a story through a sequence of sounds and images. The images that give the illusion of continuous movement. And the availability of educational technology and self-produced video on YouTube has made a teaching more enjoyable. Additionally, this video can be viewed by any time and the day and from any location that is appropriate for the students. According to the study by Al-Hamami in 2013, observation of YouTube language learning videos, this paper points to the YouTube website as one of the most useful nowadays online learning tools. And this paper focuses on 2 problems in making YouTube language learning video, pedagogy and technology. After examining the existing YouTube LVAs, this study present a new rubric aimed at a pedagogically sound basic for a language learning in the YouTube learning environment. And the last one is autonomous learning. Autonomy is often associated with a learning outside of the classroom. This refers to the learner's effort to take a language course in the classroom and to find another platform for language learning and practice outside of the classroom. In addition, this autonomy refers to the situation in which a learner performs language learning with a small or no support from a teacher. And it also covers the conceptual framework. You can see the figure on the slide. This research will be focused on students' perception on YouTube-based English learning. The researcher will use interview to collecting the data of this research. And okay, the next one is chapter 3, research method. This chapter will discuss about the method we'll use to conduct the research. The first one is a research design. So this research use qualitative descriptive. It is usually used to collect as much data as possible, so that the researcher can describe the object in order to arouse the reader interest. According to Williams in 2007, the descriptive research method is a basic research method that examines the situation as it exists its current state. And the aim of descriptive research is to explain and observe the characteristic of a circumstance because it naturally occurs. This research is intended to describe a student's perception on YouTube-based English learning specifically. And the next one is place of the research. This research will be conducted at English Education Department, State University of Makassar. And the subject of this research, this study will be conducted at State University of Makassar with the subject from the students at English Education Department 2019 to 2021 generation. This study will be used purposive sampling technique. In purposive sampling, researcher intentionally select individual and place to learn about or understand a central phenomenon. Research determine the sampling by a specific characteristic that are appropriate to the purpose of this study, so that it is expected to answer the research problem. Therefore, an inclusion criteria is needed to consider the sample. These below are the some criteria that were made by the researcher. The first one is the students at English Education Study Program in second, fourth, and sixth semester 2019 to 2021 generation of State University of Makassar. The second one, the students frequently use YouTube application, and the last one, the students use YouTube application to learn English. And then the next one is the research instrument. The researcher used interview as an instrument to collect and obtain the data. This instrument is important to obtain the rational and in-depth data will serve to provide the answer of the research question that listed in the problem statement. Interview is the data collection technique that involves a verbal communication between the researcher and the respondent. In this case, the question of the instrument will be semi-structured, and it will include an in-depth interview with the researcher choose to contain a topic that related to file of the study. The researcher will also interview students one by one using a WhatsApp voice call or maybe private chat to gain the data. And the next one is procedure of collecting the data. The researcher will interview students in English Education Department who met the criteria set by the researcher. For the instance, the researcher will be describe the step of collecting the data. The first one, before the researching. So before the researching, a researcher select informant or choose select an informant to achieve the research goal. And then during the researching, the researcher will set the time of the interview, and the subject will be informed about the content of the interview in the context of the study. And the researcher interviewing the students private call or private chat, or private voice call via WhatsApp, and then the researcher recording and writing the students' responses. And the next one, after the researching, the researcher making a transcript of interview with the students, and then the researcher making a final result of the students' perception on the YouTube-based English learning. Last one is technique of data analysis. The data from interview section will be analyzed using Miles and Haberman method. The first one is data collection. The researcher collected the data by interviewing the students as information. All of the recording data is collected, and then the researcher write the transcription of the recording. From the transcription, the researcher received the data, and at this stage, the researcher to find out the students' perception on YouTube-based English learning. And the second one is data reduction. Data reduction is the stage of reducing or simplifying the data so that it can fit the needs of and of course it easy to obtain the information. And the next one is data display. At this stage, the researcher can present data that has been reduced or simplified at the previous stage. Through the presentation of the data can be organized, arranged in a pattern of relationship, so it will be easy to understand. The data can present using a various form of data presentation, such as a table, a graph, chart, narrative text, etc. And the conclusion drawing and verification. In this last step, the researcher made a conclusion and suggestion based on the data analysis. So I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you for your kind attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.